So before I say anything, I just want to say beforehand that anything I'm saying in this video, it's not for the sake of attention seeking. I'm not looking for sympathy, and I'm not looking for anyone to feel bad for me. I just want to get my story out there because I know a lot of people go through the same thing, and I want them to know that whatever they're going through, they'll be able to overcome it, because I know depression and anxiety and mental illness in general is a generally very misunderstood, and I just want people to know that, you know, they're not alone. There are others out there who feel the same way, and I want to encourage them to seek help. So I noticed from a very young age that I was always very deeply unhappy, and I could never understand why. Because I had never gone through any traumatic experiences. I was never abused by my parents. I was never raped. So you would think that I would have had it easy, because I did have a good childhood. My parents were very good to me, and the people around me were generally very nice. But I knew that in my mind I wasn't okay. I'd noticed that no matter what happened, no matter what was going on around me, my mental perception of it was very negative, and I just couldn't understand it. I couldn't understand why I was so sad all the time. And at the time, I never told anyone how I felt because I was scared about how I would be perceived. I was scared about how I would be judged, was worried that people would think that what I was going through wasn't real, that everything I was saying would just be me looking for attention. So I went through years and years of being silent. This started when I was a child, and it transitioned into when I was an adolescent, and eventually when I became a young adult. So this became a lot more complex when I entered high school. And high school is the time when you're supposed to be thinking about your future, about what you're going to do for the rest of your life. So this for me was very anxiety provoking. It felt like everyone, obviously this wasn't true, but I felt at the time that everyone had everything figured out. They had their life together, whereas when it came to me, I always felt like I was all over the place. I had no idea what I was going to do with my life. I almost felt like I was just aimlessly wandering through life. Like I didn't have a purpose. I wasn't destined to do anything. I was a bit hesitant about mentioning this, but near the end of high school was when my first suicide attempt was. From that time, it should have been a year and a few months since then. What happened was that I just had very recently lost someone close to me, and I didn't know how to cope with it. I didn't know how to deal with it anymore, and it wasn't just a sudden decision. It was something that had built up over time. I felt like I had had enough, and what ended up happening was that I overdosed in the school washroom. And thinking back to it now, I feel bad that I put my parents through that. I can imagine being in their shoes and thinking about how they had almost lost their child. You know, like getting a call from the school hearing that your child had almost tried to kill themselves. I'm just really remorseful that I put them through such an ordeal. So I have in the past gone through therapy and programs, and I have seen psychiatrists. It took quite a while to find the right medication for me. I went through different medications, and like for each one I had some pretty bad side effects, but they finally found the right one for me. I'm currently on Prozac. So for the most part, I do seem to be managing it well now. Even now, I still have days when I feel down. It's just kind of up and down, but not as much as before. I feel like through the past year, I have changed quite a lot. In a good way, of course. And throughout the time that I've been dealing with this, I have encountered a select amount of people who have never quite understood this whole concept of mental illness. Like, and it's not their fault. They're just, it doesn't necessarily mean that they're a bad person. It's just that they're ignorant. I don't mean to sound mean, but they just don't know any better. You know, they think that because you can't see it, it's not real. And one of the really common things that people think is that you can just get over it. Like, they think because it's some kind of mood thing, you can do something to cheer yourself up and you'll just suddenly feel better, when that's not true. It's a mental web that you get caught in. It's really hard to get out of it. For example, when you're in a depressive mood and you're not in any condition to be doing anything, you just lay there day after day. It's not uncommon for people to be assuming that you are just lazy, that you just don't have any motivation because you choose to feel this way. I do think that with the advancement of technology, information is being spread more easily. So I do believe that people are becoming more informed and more open-minded about these kinds of things, which is a good thing. And contrary to the title of this video, I'm not trying to say that depression is actually your fault. I'm trying to encompass what people would, well, not everyone, but what some people would typically think about this kind of issue. So in conclusion, I just want to say that I do think this whole situation has been quite life-changing. The fact that, you know, it's now in the open, that I do know how to cope with it now, because my perception of happiness is a lot different from what it used to be before. I used to think that happiness was a constant thing. I used to think that to be happy, you always had to be laughing. You always had to have been smiling. But I've come to learn that life is a lot more complex than that. Life has a lot of ups and downs. It has a lot of difficulties, but it's not what's actually around you. It's how you not choose, but how you learn to perceive those things. Time passes by quite quickly and you go through phases of changing who you are and what you believe in. But I think what should always stay the same and constant is being able to see how beautiful life is. So if you are feeling down or in any way, make sure you tell someone. Don't keep it to yourself, because when you do that, you often feel very alone and isolated, and that's not very healthy. So I hope this video did some good.